tabletop tonight. Hey, what's up, Darkovia? Anyways, tonight's one of our different streams. Basically, we're going to be building a tabletop, straight up. We're going to be starting from the very beginning, from the concept, moving from the concept into the actual design of what we want to do. One sec. Alright. There we go. Just, you know, that kind of thing. It's going to be a long, drawn-out process, but I wanted to kind of just chat with you guys while I was doing it. Make it interesting, and hopefully you guys can take from it as well. So, like, I've been talking about wanting to do this for a while. But, I have my OneNote here, and it's got a bunch of notes that will enable me to, you know, do shit that I want to do. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Let's go there. That right over here. So, like, I'm going to be talking a lot about kind of my design preferences behind this type of thing. You know. Puppo's so excited. Just kind of like, when you're approaching something like this, the arguments and the pitfalls that people have fallen into in the past when designing them, on and so forth. But the main thing is, I was super dissatisfied with a universe that ended for me recently, and I'm gonna do it one better. Just straight up. So, okay. Let's go ahead and just start like this. The concept of my game is I want my swatch pad. Here we are. Okay. So I want to play a game where the attacks that you use are more than just auto attacks, you know? So, for example, let's say there are different types of attacks. There are, sweeps. Ooh, wow, that's way too large. What's going on with my, tablet here? Oh, God, that fucking Windows thing. Let's just do it like this. Sweeps, lunges, and, basically I want sweeps to go from left to right, lunges to go forward and hit anything in their path, and then let's do another one that is a, we could have it going, let's see, what would the best way to do this? I'm trying to think of different attacks that you can perform in combat, right? This is just where we're starting, from a concept, from a design. And the idea is, let me actually do this a little bit better and draw on a different layer, because I'm an idiot. And let's also change the color, because I want to use specific colors later on. Let's do white. So, yeah, that's a bit harder to do as well. Great. Yeah, that's decent. Okay. So anyways, let's start. Attack types. What is wrong with this? Okay, hold on just a second, guys. My tablet is freaking out. Yeah, really bad, actually. Okay. What is this? TT? I can't remember which type it is. One second, let me look at it. Any of you guys ever had this issue where, like, the tablet driver was not found? This is going to be our RPG. One sec. Hold on just a sec, guys. I'm gonna be messing with my drivers because apparently the driver for this is fucked up. I don't know. I can't use my tablet right now, so I'm gonna uninstall the driver for it real quick. Yes, get rid of it. very specific drivers. That's helpful. That'll actually help me out a lot. So this one is the PTH451K. PTH451K driver. Come on, just right. Let's see. Let's check the compatible product. PTH451. Where are we at? Huh. I don't know. I'm seeing the 451 here, but I guess K is just black. So I'll go ahead and try that. Okay, so it says the latest driver should work for it, so I'm gonna try it out just real quick. We are just starting, right now we're starting on visual concepts. That's what we're going for. Wait, there is a link for it? Hold on. I'm gonna check it out real quick. H451K. Yeah, because it's not working. It's not CTH. It's PTH. PTH451. One second.
Yeah, this is for influence.
Okay. Let me double check this real quick. Whoa. Oh, this is so broken. But yeah, we're gonna work on visual design as soon as we get this thing fucking working. Drivers. Intuos Pro. So I guess this is right then? Latest driver for Intuos Pro? I'll try it out. Is this an Intuos Pro? I don't even know. Intuos Pro, small. Yeah? Okay, we're good to go. We will try it out, friends. Hey, what's up, Love Disney? So today's gonna be a little bit different stream. We're kind of moving into the, go ahead and ask something, Love Disney, what's up? But yeah, right now I'm just installing a driver for my tablet, and then we're gonna get this show on the road, fellas. Okay, cool. Go ahead and accept that, pull this over here. But yeah, ask whatever you need to. I will respond in time. Right now we're just setting up softwares. At first I was like really concerned because I'm like, man, it's like, oh, my mouse stopped working for a second. I was like, man, people are gonna get bored immediately, be like, oh shit, nothing's happening here. And then I was like, wait, I don't care. It's like, I'll just get my tablet fixed up and then be back on the road and I'm good to go. And then the people who stuck around get to see the awesome shit. But can't do any coding, etc. Yeah, go ahead. Okay, now let's see if that'll work. What the hell? Huh? I definitely installed it. Hold on. Let's try this. So, can I help you? My advice for that, honestly, is like, there's probably that fear there that you might not be able to code, but that is wholly not true. Learning to code is easier than learning another language, in my opinion. And my recommendation would be just to start coding, like specifically look for tutorials for coding with video games. Download Unity, build Pac-Man, build Blaster Ball, build the small stuff. And then everything you learn from doing one of those smaller, more basic games, you can start specifically being like, I need a character that can move left or right on a 2D plane. And, well, you've already got that down. You've played Pac-Man, or you've built Pac-Man. You know how to make a character go left or right or up and down. And then you're like, I need a character who can jump. And it's like, you know, maybe you could code like the first level of Mario, and bam, you've got a character who can jump. You know how to code a jump. Small things. It's just, for example, I have a wonderful community member who straight up creates video games with their brother, and I've actually played it, and it's really good. And they did it themselves. You know, they learned how to code. It does seem scary, but my advice is to find a good anchoring point and dive in. You gotta throw all that behind you. What is going on here? What kind of PC do you have? Because you can code on a pretty rough PC a lot of the time. Oh, I see. Okay, so this, and then let's lower it a bit. Oh god, this is terrible, fellas. I don't know why my stuff isn't working. So you don't need a really high-tech gig. Like, you don't need a high-tech computer to build like a two-dimensional game. 1 second. Right now I'm looking for my tablet and it isn't registering it. So I will say, this isn't the first time Wacom has done this to me. I don't know why, but it just does not like my, here we go. Maybe. God damn it. Tablet driver was not found. Perfect. Oh, how does this happen every fucking time I try to use a Wacom product? I've had 4 tablets in total, and all of them have done this. One sec. Alright, here we go. I got it working. I think. Oh, beautiful. I think I got it. Hold on just a sec, fellas. I'm going to be just doing a quick test. I'm working on a fan game in my head. Kingdom Hearts fan game. Yes, they will stop you if you try to monetize it. If you don't try and monetize it, they can't stop you. Unless you're using their materials. Like, if you make all the sprites yourself, no, they can't do anything, really. If you try and monetize it, they can. If you use their materials, they can. You know, just that type of thing. Okay, so... I don't want a system restart. Ugh, that's nasty. Okay, so this should work now. Okay, yeah, it's looking much better. I think this is pressure. Right? No, that's not it. Over here?
I have to close and open.
Oh, fuck. You're right. I forget that Adobe's like that at times. Let's go over here.
It's folding, huh?
Oh, yeah, dude. Here, check it out. Oh, never mind. I don't have anything in there. Ha. Yeah. Okay. Their materials, as in, like, let's say you're doing a 2D, and you're going to be doing it, essentially, you're going to be using Chain of Memories assets. That's kind of like where you actually rip them from Chain of Memories and use them. That's where it's entering legal territory. But if you make everything yourself, then, you know, it's Creative Commons, so long as you're not making money off of it. Oh, by the way, if you're wondering, other job, blah, 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 blah. D&D. I do a lot of shit in Photoshop, straight up. Oh, beautiful. Oh my god, it's amazing. Let's take this airbrush off. Do this. Ah, amazing. So, let's get into it, guys. Now is the time. So the way I am picturing this is, it's pretty simple. Let's start with our visual concepts. Oh god, this is horrible. Never mind, hold on. I've got to change my stuff around because right now the screen is all of my 2 screens, which is bad. It's very bad. Mapping. Let's change it to monitor 1. Tablet area full. Don't use Windows Ink. Okay. Amazing. Visual. So this is our visual concept and design. Yeah, go ahead and show it in the links section. My thoughts on Kingdom Hearts is, where are our priorities? Mechanical. So our priorities mechanical for me in Kingdom Hearts are 1, combat. Just straight up. I think that combat is probably our primary focus. 2, being on movement. 3, being on interaction. So this is just all me. This is not going by any we're doing a Kingdom Hearts tabletop. That's what we're building right here, right now. We're gonna start building a tabletop along the lines of D&D, so that you and all your friends can, you know, create your characters and exist in the universe/world. So, the long and short of it is, I'm not playing, I'm just creating, as in I'm creating the system so that other people can play. After we finish it, or while we're creating it, please feel free to play. You know, that's what I'm creating it for, you know? Yeah. So, moving on. this is just your basic grid. There are actually a few ways to approach, like, building a tabletop. The first way that people do it, and oftentimes they will build a tabletop in a way that you could do either or, but the first way that people generally create a tabletop combat system is through theater of mind. Meaning that you don't have any kind of physical surface to display your thoughts on. Everything is separately in everybody's imaginations. The pros of this are that it requires nothing to play except paper and pencil. The cons are that what you see and what other people see can be different. And that is the worst part of it, is that you have no form of solid communication. There is no indicators. There are no indicators, rather. There is nothing to help you understand if your reality is correct. So, I'm actually going to approach this purely grid-based for now. And later on, we're going to focus on essentially creating a theater of mind option. But I want to focus this to be purely grid-based because Kingdom Hearts was a system that had kind of its surroundings in mind when you were interacting with the world, when you were fighting. So I don't. Oh, it may be because you need to put it into a Google Doc first. You can't upload things to the Discord, but you can link things. So if you have a Google Doc, you can do it like that. So let's go ahead and start like this. Let's grab this. Boop. Retransform. We're gonna be kind of dragging. Ah, fuck. We're gonna be kind of dragging this over here. Come on, you piece of shit. What the hell? Oh, okay. This is what's up. So we'll just kind of drag this down here. Deselect. This can also go, really. Oops. Oh, I don't have a layer select for some reason. Oh, come on. Be nice. There we go. Let's go ahead and start this thing. In Kingdom Hearts, there's something very basic that we kind of started with, and that was the idea. And you may not have even realized this while you were playing, but there were different types of attacks. There was an attack that hit anything in front of you from left to right. There was an attack that hit anything in front of you, a jab, you know what I mean? Let's actually do it like this. So from left to right, swing. This is actually terrible. I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna zoom it in. There we go. I looked through it a little bit. There was a different type of attack that lunged. And then, if we would like to go even further, we can make up a third type of attack. Maybe one that goes kind of around in a circle type of thing, but does lesser damage or has a lesser chance to hit, right? Because there was one in the air where he would swing around. I do remember that specifically. Let's just do 12. No, there's not an E on 12. I'm an idiot. So anyways, just using this as a base, if we were to do a combat, what I would do is I would have it to where while you are attacking in this combat, so long as you're standing right here, this is kind of the center point, right? Actually, let me get rid of this one right here. I'm not really feeling that, honestly. Let's do that. Yeah, there we go. So, like, so long as you are standing right here, you can attack any enemy that is in this spot, enemies plural, if you want, right? Because I believe that Kingdom Hearts isn't about, like, the like the D&D dueling where you're fighting one person at a time, because that's the limits of humanity, and you're slowly becoming above that unless you have magic. Well, that's boring. Instead, I would specifically have it to where it was using these mechanics, where you, as an action, once per turn, can choose one of these moves to perform. And they come with their own bonuses. This one can pierce the first target it hits and hit a second. This one hits from left to right, or from right to left, whichever, and hits one enemy, but maybe does greater damage, you know. And this one will hit every enemy around you, not stopping, but do lesser damage. It doesn't really matter what you choose to do there. We're not to that point yet. But let's do a visual combat style. And then, for the enemies, you can literally use anything. Pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, the little glass hippie beads, I don't even know what they're called, you know. That part doesn't matter so much. The main thing is, Kingdom Hearts had a very signature combat in that it was an action RPG. It wasn't a JRPG where you chose a target, your guy ran up there, attacked, you went back to your spot, and their turn came up and they attacked you. We want something that's action-packed, that accentuates the idea that you are in a 3D, which is actually a 2.5D environment, you catch. And these are physical, right? But Kingdom Hearts had more than just physical attacks. But let's approach our magical. In Kingdom Hearts 2, they had a new magic system that I actually really enjoyed. No, that's not really fire. Oh, let's let me see. Which one do I want to do? Let's do this one. So what if our fire is literally kind of a ring of fire around us? Our blizzard is a straight line skill shot that goes on until it hits a wall, essentially. And then our thunder can literally hit any place on the map, period. Let's go ahead and fill in where our character is. And then it doesn't matter where our character is with thunder because it can hit anywhere. They can choose a single spot for it to hit. So essentially thunder can never miss. But blizzard can hit multiple enemies. It can be cast in diagonals. And fire can hit every enemy around you, just period. That's kind of its thing, right? So right here we have a mechanically intensive two-dimensional combat system, and we've just put up some drawings. See, what's going to happen here is, let's go ahead and pull a new layer up. We have a Heartless here, and here, and here, and over here, and over here. You could say, well, obviously, the most beneficial attack is to use a blizzard this way. Because, you know, that'll hit two enemies straight up. Or that the most beneficial attack is to straight up hit the two enemies around you because they're straight up threatening you. Or maybe this one over here is a little wizard and he's casting Hellion spells. So you lightning strike him in the face, and it does more damage because lightning strikes a single target, you know? The main thing is, if you give people options, they will do interesting things with them. And that's one of the things I kind of hate about White Wolf and Wizards of the Coast, is they're afraid to give people options. They're like, hey, here's you, here's an enemy, attack them. Or, here's you, here's an enemy, attack them. And that's like super boring to me. I broke Final Fantasy D6 because I didn't want to fucking play like that. I didn't want to trade off blows. So I had my character, who's right here, and then enemies peppered all around here and whatnot. I hit him, asked our ninja to put explosives up. What are you doing, Josh? Get my keys? Oh, here, you can have them. You frying something up? Alright. The long and short of it was, instead of fighting these individuals, I looked up, saw there was a cave ceiling, had my ninja plant explosives on it, and then brought down the cave ceiling on them. Because that's more interesting, you know. And that's unfortunately the way these systems are made. So it's my intent to create a system that feels fun to play. And that's what we're going to be talking about in this. So let's go ahead and go back to... So we have our physical, our magical, and these are all able to be changed. I actually have, you know, this is like a Legend of Zelda-esque swirl. Now, we have just a couple of basic ideas down. Like, this doesn't make a system in its whole, though. So the next is to determine, okay, how effective are these hits going to be? And this is a very, okay, this is before we even get to the mathematics. We make a decision. When our characters are hitting something, how many times can you combo? I'd say no. Combos are like, you can technically combo. Every turn you get an action, you're able to hit, and then the next turn you can hit again, and then the final turn you can do another hit. You can combo if you want, but we're approaching this on an action-by-action thought. Maybe, later on, your character can get like a dual attack or something, to where he can do 2 attacks in his turn. But right now, we're just focusing on 1 action per turn. So like, now we need to figure out how many hits does it take to kill your basic bitch enemy, the Shadow. Right? So, how many hits does it take in Kingdom Hearts to end those? In the tutorial, it takes about 3. 2 if you get like a really powerful ending to your combo. And then you have to consider, with multiple players, how easy is it going to be to take down a Shadow? Well, that's easy. It'll take a hit per player if you're playing with 3 people. That's boring. So you have to consider how you can beef it up. For example, there are different ways to do this. You have a bad guy. And then you have your 3 allies just beating the shit out of him from different angles. So, there are different ways you can approach this. You can simply have it to where there are... Oh wait, actually I'm on the wrong layer for this. So, let's go ahead and let's actually clear that layer and just make a new one. So, let's get our bad guy out there. Get our allies attacking from different angles. There are different ways you can handle this, and you need to figure out early how you want to handle it. Do you want them to all hit the enemy once and him to poof? Or do you want them to all hit him 3 times and then he poof? If you're wanting to hit him 3 times total and then he poof, you're going to need more enemies. You're going to need a lot more enemies. You need, for combat to feel like a threat. And they need to have the same amount of attacks that your characters do. Pretty straightforward. So, if your characters have... If this thing has 9 health, and your characters hit for 3 damage, then the enemies need to be able to hit about 3 damage and threaten your characters 9 to 15 health more. But what that means is that you're going to get overrun in no time with this many enemies. So there needs to be some way to kind of separate health values when enemies are in large amount, or you need to be able to do massive amounts of damage or hit multiple enemies at a time. In other words, this guy right here would do a fire spell. This one right here would do a blizzard spell. You kind of catch my drift here. And that they can hit multiple enemies per one. The lunge. If this enemy were right here, then he could lunge and hit both of them. So maybe you had an alternate option. Under physical, there is now the ability to shove. And you can shove an enemy into a proper place. Just one square over anyway, right? but your character has to be directly adjacent to them. So we're going to go ahead and put that under physical up here. Let's grab this real quick, actually, and move it out of the way. What shove would allow them to do is for, you know, this character right here, he doesn't have too many great moves. He could do a fire, but all in all, actually, I would probably put it with this character. He literally can do nothing right now. So what he might do is run over here and push this thing, like, right here. Or right here is better, actually. So he pushes this thing, like, right here, and then it gets hit by a fire and hit by another fire. And that right there is a fun decision to make. It allows them to hit multiple enemies at a time with one spell. And it allows for a character to not necessarily have to auto-attack something to, you know, to do anything. So let's get rid of this example real quick, and let's move on to something else. These right here, they're quite powerful. Like, this is supposed to intentionally be weaker than this or this. But this right here, I'm going to say that they do a lot of damage. And that's, you have to mix auto attacks, or rather regular attacks, with magic to do proper damage in this system. So our next thing is, how do we balance how many times you can use this versus this? Because if you can use this indefinitely, what's the point of having this at all? So let's go to our mana system. We're just going to call it that for now. We don't necessarily need to use mana at all, right? Ooh, that was rough. Okay. Let's go down here. What if you had a mana bar? And it had 3 portions on it. Yeah. But what if this took 3? It was 3 MP, maybe? Let's put a kind of a guess on that. What that means is you'll be able to cast that once before you are out of enough theoretical mana to do anything. So how about if you auto-attack? In other words, if you actually, let's change that to if physical attack. Then recover 1 mana. So, what this does is it encourages you to attack, you know, fire. And what that does is it creates a system where people are using both physical attacks, because they are still perfectly viable. For example, your blizzard can't go left to right in front of you. There are still things that your attacks can do that your magic can't. I would say that these are the closest things to spells, but this right here is really powerful. And you can do it in any way. Like, it doesn't just have to be right here. You can do it up and down or below you. You kind of catch my drift there. So, if physical attack, then recover 1 mana. Pretty simple. And then what you have is you blizzard, or you fire, you thunder, and then you attack twice, and then you do it again. And that's just one way to do it. Let's do Mana System 2.0. Let's say that your mana is, let's say that your mana is only generated through items. Now, I don't know how I feel about this. It sounds good, but like the main fear of it is that your characters will be in kind of a they will be in like a gauntlet of sorts, right? They will not have any place to rest or any way to regenerate that, because we're going to make the assumption here that all of your mana regenerates when you're able to like sleep. This could end up being the doom of a magically centered like party, even though it already, like, this system would promote a mix of magic and physical attacks. There are always going to be people who want to build a character around one way or the other, and that shouldn't be like disregarded. So in that case, I'm gonna take a drink real quick. We need to figure out if there is a way for them to regenerate mana through kind of the world around them. They collect it as they go. So let's actually, let's do this. Okay, item recovery. Pretty simple. Maybe scavenge from world. Or I have another consideration. Regain upon killing Heartless. That's another thing that you can do. It's like, this isn't tried and true with the original Kingdom Hearts system, but I don't believe that Kingdom Hearts 1's combat was anywhere near perfect. Honestly, its magic was ridiculously overpowered and didn't cost enough mana to be, well, the long and short of it is, if you could build a good magic build, there was no point to basic attack. So that's another way. Another one that I'm not going to do is essentially regain MP per turn. Because that requires people keeping up with things on like upkeep. There's one reason I hate Magic the Gathering. It's because you have to micromanage so many base game mechanics that it's like, this is very badly designed. Like, on a conceptual level, untapping everything is like, I understand keeping up with your resources, but that is a terrible way to go about it. It would honestly be better to use counters, and to put those counters on things that you're using, than to have this thing where you're like, okay, let me shuffle through this and take 3 minutes just to use one card. You know what I mean? That is what this is. Regaining MP per turn is saying, okay, now I'm going to add an additional mana counter at the beginning of my turn, and it requires your players to keep up with something that they might forget. These are interactive. All of them are. All 3 of these. This is if you hit an attack, you recover a mana. If then, it is an action that you take that directly gives you a reward. This, it is an action that you take that directly gives you a reward. This, actions you take, reward. This is, it happens, once per turn. Not really something you're responsible for, it's an upkeep that you've got to keep in mind, that you've got to remember. That's bad design. Let's not do that. Let me think. What's another mana system that we could use? And this is kind of the brainstorming section. Right now, what we're doing is we're putting thoughts on paper. That is our primary concern. Another thing we could do is... Now, one thing I don't want to do is... This was just something I was considering. This right here is what Kingdom Hearts did. When you hit an enemy, the mana would fly from them in little bubbles, and you picked it up. It wasn't too bad, but that's not going to work for this setting. Instead, we need to treat that like this. That is pretty much, if physical attack, then recover 1 mana. We have simplified something here that game, for some reason, could not. They had you running around to pick up bubbles when they could have just made an if-then. They made something overcomplicated and inconvenient at times. So let's just say that enemies dropping mana at any point will automatically be deferred to the if-then. That's just how we're going to do that. What is give me some interesting mana systems that you have seen in your days, because I think that'll be very interesting, and I'd like to consider some of them for this right here. In the meantime, I will continue to think of some myself, but like, keep in mind, scavenging from world is a lot along the lines of like Final Fantasy VIII's draw system, where you would find points in the world that naturally generated a spell, and you would draw that spell from the world. You could steal MP from enemies, but then again, that's a subset of if-then recover one. However, it's a fun one because, consider, if we were to do that, perhaps your sword naturally doesn't recover mana, but your staff does if you hit. That's just a kind of another subsection of this right here, you know. Alright. I think I'm good with the mana system, just like kind of brainstorming ideas for right now. This is kind of the one I'm favoring, but you know, I'll come up with a billion ideas and try them all out at the table. But right now, I'm kind of liking it. Item recovery, we could definitely do that too. So these don't have to be separate. If all the enemies are gone, how do you recover your mana? Maybe you could find a natural font, like out in the world, of mana that you can absorb, you know? So, I'll go ahead and do that right there. You can recover mana from the world around you at certain places. Which will bring up interesting mechanics later on, but let's keep focused. Our next thing to do is to determine, and this is probably the most important thing, how many of these can you do per turn? I'm willing to say, let's say your character can hit 2 spaces, 3 spaces like that way, you know, but it stops at the first thing it hits. Let's say your character can only move 5 spaces. So, this is just kind of temporary, but your character can only move 5 spaces. If it's a point of elevation, and they're going up here, it just takes double the spaces. Yep, that was my thought. 1 per turn is good for now. So we'll do movement. 5 spaces per turn. And then for attack, equals 1 per turn. That's supposed to be a witch hat. That was a bad witch hat. So, let's see, what else? I want to consider defensive options too, though. Let's do a movement, an attack, and a reaction. Reactions, the thing you can, there are going to be a lot of enemies attacking if we go with that first one where there are a bunch of enemies, or there's, the long and short of it is, if there are a whole bunch of enemies, then a reaction is really good. Consider dodge, block, or, let's see, we have dodge that allows us to maybe avoid an attack. Block allows us to take reduced damage from said attack. What is another kind of Kingdom Hearts specific thing that they do? I don't want to use Reflect. No, we can use Reflect. That's a spell that would take mana to use as a reaction. Aerial recovery. So aerial recovery is a little bit different. We're going to have knockback in this, but it won't require aerial recovery to function. Aerial recovery is a pure removal of player agency, and it's reactive. It's much better to have a proactive approach, like, don't get hit at all. So dodge is a reaction, and what it does is it removes you from getting damaged by one attack. Block is a reaction, and it takes half damage, let's say, from all attacks until it's your turn again. Reflect is a magic class is a magic cast that maybe takes 3 mana, and it removes all damage for the turn, straight up. But it costs a lot of mana, so it's like it creates that choice. I'm gonna be damaged really hard. I can reflect it, but that'll cost me all of my mana, and I won't be able to do that badass fire spell that I was planning on next turn. I could block it and do half damage, but will I survive? That type of thing. Here's another thing is like now that you think about it, yeah, you're correct. Reflect did damage enemies, so I'm going to call that barrier because I don't want any of your reactions to be able to damage enemies. Simply due to the fact that I don't think reactions should be offensive, and I don't think they should punish your enemies. Because, like, keep in mind, if you can do something in the game, there are going to be enemies who are allowed to do the same things. Yes, I think that dodge is obviously self-only, but block, I think you could block for another person. Essentially, so long as they are adjacent to you, you could block and take the damage instead of them. And barrier, of course, you could cast it on anybody on the field, but it's super expensive, mana-wise, you know. There are going to be people who might not even be able to cast barrier, or maybe they can cast it once per combat, you know. So we've got a pretty good we've got a pretty good thing going here, fellas. These are just our base combat mechanics. But I'm creating a tabletop that is combat-centric. Like, that's the idea. That's what we're going for. Sorry, I'm just turning down my music a little bit for you guys. Well, blocking for an ally, I would say that they would have to be directly adjacent. And so here's the deal. For dodge, I would allow one space of movement. Like, as a part of your dodge reaction, you can choose one adjacent spot to go to as a part of your block reaction. Why not also give them that one adjacent spot? If there's an enemy barreling towards your ally, about to belly bump them like the large bodies, jump in front and block and take that damage. However, like, that brings up the question. If that is the case, do we want to keep block, do we want to keep it doing half damage for the entirety of the round, or just for, like, kind of the beginning of it?
We're going through game mechanics?
Yep.
This looks really cool.
Yeah, it's fun.
You have fucking decent handwriting like you do.
That is pig scratch, my man.
Have you seen?
I have. But we'll kind of get to the reactions later. Right now, it's just an idea. So these are the 3 things that you can do in your turn. Movement, attack/spell, and a reaction, but you can never do a reaction on your actual turn. You can only do it at other points during the round, and once you've used it, you have to wait till your next turn.
Makes sense.
So that's a pretty standard, staple, you know, kind of idea. We'll definitely keep these ideas.
So,
What's your question, Chief?
what would it be? Roll into a bowl and cry.
Roll into a bowl and cry, dodge. Be your dodge.
We're gonna be doing a lot of dodging.
Nice. DPS dodge rolls to the tank. Tank holds up a block for them. The barrier in case they're really getting focused. Jesus Christ. Yeah, that is pretty crazy. But if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. However, I think barrier could only really happen on a single square. Like, here's your barrier. Your barrier can only really happen in one spot. So we've kind of got the basics of combat. We could put really basic maths to this and get it working. The maths we'll get to later because that gets into the kind of the underside of it, that I don't want to get to it first because right now we are just in visual concept and design. This is what our game is going to look like. Yeah, it'd be pretty funny, I agree. That's a lot of resources given up there, though. Next up, so let's look at this. We have combat. Movement is kind of our next thing. So, let's say that I'm actually going to merge this down real quick. Watch this. Okay, merge down. So this is all of our combat right here. Every single bit of it. We're going to name that combat. And we're going to make it disappear. So next up is 2, movement. So this is our movement. We have to consider both in and out of combat how our characters are going to move. We've already talked about having the 2, 3, 4, 5. About having the 5 movement, 5 squares per turn. But when it comes to the 2.5 dimension, the 3-dimensional combat, how much do we want it to cost to jump and grab onto something? There's no real way to do this efficiently on flat ground, because this right here is 2.5D, but in 2D, it's going to look just like this. And you're going to be running at it and then jump up. And it's really hard to judge distances this way. This is honestly kind of 2D plus, because they're not going to show this on most maps, you know? How much does this cost you? Is there a climb speed? Do we want to get that in depth with it? We could just have it to where you can spec in a feat called high jump that enables you to double your jumping height. So maybe initially you can jump 1 5-foot block without it causing, or without it taking too much speed. But if it gets to a 10-foot jump, then it takes like, it stops your movement or something, right? Or you could simply have it to where if he says, hey, it's 10 feet up, it just costs you 10 feet of movement. The question is, how mechanically tight do you want your movement to be in combat? And that's the question you've got to ask yourself. Because this is the problem with theater of mind, is this 10 feet right here, this means nothing because this is what the players are imagining. Unless you're specifically like, in front of you is a wall of roughly 10 feet. And this gets more into DMing than anything, but there needs to be a way to judge how valuable movement is. For this system, I'm genuinely going to say there's no climb speed. You cannot climb a wall. You must find a way around it. We're Kingdom Hearts 1, by the way. That's kind of what we're basing this on, right? So this, impossible. Unless you have high jump. Oh yeah, okay, that's another really good suggestion. 3-block jump would probably need to be impossible without high jump. Alright, cool. So here's the deal. A single jump goes 1 square up, takes 1 of your squares of movement. A 2-square jump takes 2 squares of movement, 1 to jump, 1 to pull on the ledge. In that case, there's actually no mathematical difference between those two. What the only difference is, so to kind of clarify, and this is going to be really weird, so bear with me for a second. Here is the 5-foot jump. And then here is the 10-foot jump, where you pull yourself up, right? You're mechanically still using the same amount of distance to, 1, to cover roughly the same amount of space, except for the fact that, or I guess the best way to say it is there's not much penalty for it being 10 feet in that case. And then of course 3. So what we could do instead is, like, if you jump up 10 feet, so you move forward 1, 2, 3, 4, you could have it take up 3 instead, so that there's an actual difference, and so there's a need to spec into high jump, which would make it 2 instead, that type of thing. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I'm just saying that it's mechanically kind of just fluff. If you want to wait on the mechanic, if you're really concerned about the movement mechanics, makes this 1 cost. Make this 3 cost. And then make this impossible without high jump. Or you could have this 2 with high jump. And this is 3 with high jump. So high jump doesn't reward you any for this right here. It just rewards you for these 2. You can get to previously unexplorable locations. Jumping large obstacles or over obstacles is much easier for someone who is spec'd into high jump. Just that type of thing. And also, like, you have to ask yourself... Looks a bit better? Okay. You have to ask yourself, is Glide going to be in this game? I'll go ahead and put it in here, because Glide has something really nice in it. There is one simple fact about Glide that saves it in Kingdom Hearts, is you can never go higher than you took off. And that's great. That means that it's super easy to balance and build maps around. Now, we're getting into like tactics level maps, and I don't expect this to be like a super common everyday map, you know. All I'm saying is, there are some DMs who do want to do that. And they have systems for elevations, or maybe they even make elevations. What the hell?
Hey, down. And then I touched it here. Okay, buddy?
Dog's screaming. Sorry about that, fellas. Okay, but anyways, the long and short of it is, no, he doesn't. Do you want Glide in your game? And if so, are you willing to build levels around it so it's not useless? If you're going to put something in the game, you need to make sure that it actually does something so that your players feel rewarded for taking it in the first place. But let me offer another solution with movement. And let me select the proper thing for this. This is going to be Arrow. And then let's grab this. Oh, whoa. That's not the swatch I wanted. So Arrow affects 1 square. Just flavor it first, but has branches of stuff you can pair with it eventually, like a drop attack? Absolutely. Yeah. So let's go back to our drawings. Let's go to that 2, right? If you drop Arrow on a square, you don't have to spend movement to jump up to that area at all, period. It's boing. This is skipped entirely, and this is 1, 2, 3, 4. What's your question, Banga?
Will that be only for the caster, or will that be for anybody on that spot?
It will be for anybody on that spot until the arrow runs out. You could even have it work till the end of the round if you wanted to.
Very nice.
Or just, like, you'd have it work for 2 turns. You know, that's purely your prerogative when you're designing the system. For me, I'd probably have it go till the end of the round. It is something you can sit down, and then other people can jump on it behind you. But if they don't get to it before the end of the round, then they gotta climb. If you're the last one to attack, then you're the only one, or maybe you could last until the beginning of your next turn. Just straight up, that's another way to do it. Rip flow motion. Yeah, flow motion was, flow motion would not work in any D&D system, just straight up. Hell, it didn't even work in 3. All they had was some, like, empty, like, reflection of flow motion from 3D. Alright. However, I would say that, like, there has to be a cap to how far it can go. You could just make it to where you can jump up 2 without expending any cost anymore, and you have to start expending cost for the jump, something like that. But this could also be paired with glide to get to crazy-ass places. So you've got to think about how your mechanics work with each other. That's why I haven't actually put glide down here yet. Let me grab this real quick. Oh, I hit the mic.
A higher like wind spell, like Aroa or...
So with that, I would probably have it to where if you have Aurora or if you have Aeroga, then it does more damage to the enemies because it still does damage. Like consider throwing an arrow down on the large body, running up to the large body, and flipping over it with your arrow spell that you put down. He's getting damaged by your arrow spell, and you're also getting movement options out of it. It just doesn't do a whole lot of damage. Ensures that everyone gets a shot, and initiative or whatever turn order you use doesn't... Yeah, no, definitely. That's exactly why I was considering that. So, alt movement. So we have our alternate movement. There was something else that Kingdom Hearts 3 did, was that it created a lot of movement option with spells. However, I don't think that doing the Blizzard would be super amazing. Like doing the straight line, you now have a rail that you can move at like double speed. I think that kind of is a bit too much. You still want some kind of restriction. I mean, arrow costs mana. Oh. So we've kind of got some basic movement systems down. Let's approach some different movement systems. What if you gave up your action to sprint? And then you can move double distance.
Well, if I wanted to grind my keyblade down on like an angled surface, like skateboard.
You'd trip? Let's see. What other cool mechanics? Of course, we have dodge roll, which allows you... we'll actually put dodge roll in here. One adjacent space. So, move there, 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 there. Actually, let's change this. Let's specifically post unoccupied. Or unrestricted. So, if there's a big old large body, there's a big old meanie, one sec. Right here. And you're right here. Then let's say you can't move here or here with your dodge roll. He's restricting you. He's like right in front of you. He's a large body. He's a big boy. That's just a potential. So you can only move here, 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 or here.
Now, would those incur attacks of opportunity?
No. No attacks of opportunity in this. Our reactions are only defensive. That's the only type of reactions we're including.
Is that the same for the enemies as well?
Yes. There may be some enemies that have a special ability that's on the GM, but for the most point, there's no reason to give an attack of opportunity in a game that is more about this fun stuff. You don't want to be just completely and totally punished for wanting to be in the midst of enemies casting a fire, or for wanting to twirl around with your legendary weapon in hand, carving through people.
Agreed.
Okay. So we'll just say that dodge roll is technically a movement action. We'll also put guard. / defend.
Stay push.
We will have that one adjacent space, period. Unoccupied. We will put that because you'll be standing next to somebody. But unrestricted, restricted doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if there's an enemy there. It doesn't matter if there's an enemy like slapping you in the back of the head. You can move wherever to guard / defend because the whole point is you're ready to take that blow. But with dodge roll, you're specifically trying to get out of harm's way. So we'll say for that movement action, that's how it functions, you know? So we've kind of got some basic movement decisions. We've got some really basic combat decisions. Now, we should go to interactions, which is... Oh, I actually need to do something real quick over here. Go over to our let's do that. We're gonna grab this stuff right here. We're gonna cut that. Oh, wait. Cut. There we go. There we go. One sec. I'm just doing some organizing. Oh, come on. Come on. There we go. So, give me just a second. Alright. So we've got our combat and movement, and holy crap, guys, this looks crazy already. We can always add more to those, but let's go ahead and move on to the next part, because I've spent about 30 minutes talking about each. Interaction. How will the characters interact with the world? Do 3 right there. The long and short of this is that there is a world around you. Let's do this. Reaction to monologue for 3 hours. Maybe for some DMs, but I'm not really down for that. Only if you mention bees. Well, like, I get it, you know, like, monologuing gives lore and whatnot, but I genuinely think it's better to... kind of like... That's why I don't do Saturday morning villains, because it's better and easier to talk to your players rather than monologue to them, and it feels less ridiculous. I would prefer to have a political campaign where my bad guys, quote-unquote, can be chatted with by my players. Their actions can be swayed, or the severity of them might be changed, right? Just that type of thing. So, we're going to say that this is our map, right? Just a super basic map. How do you interact with that during movement? Like, that's got to be something to consider. Let's say these are trees. Or lampposts, you know, either or. And they give light or something. Can you interact with any part of the environment around you? If no, then you're doing it wrong. The world around you is real. So in combat, we have to be considerate of that. Like, the long and short of it is Traverse Town. Yeah, it's like a super basic Traverse Town. Here's like the cafe's roof right here. Yeah, that's the mailbox next to the stairs. Yep, you are correct. Yeah, exactly. Like, there has to be a way to function with things around you. Interaction number 1. If you cast fire on grass, it goes up in flames. Super simple, but fun, but interesting, you know? So, let's have interactions with our... Okay, so, no, I'm going to say this first and foremost. There are way too many games where interactions are gimmicks. In Skyrim, they have a pool of oil, and the oil is shiny and noticeable, and if you hit it with fire, it just straight up kills everything in that hallway. And you're like, oh, I'm so smart. I considered a way to eliminate this puzzle in front of me before I even got to see it. No, that's not fun. That's not interesting. Our interactions. Let's have it to where, these are, let's say they're lampposts or something. Why not have it to where you can like, I don't know, hit a lamppost with electricity, and anything standing on its metal base is zappy dude. A little too powerful, honestly, because electricity does a lot of damage to a single target. Let's change that around. What if and this is going to be super stupid, and you guys are going to get a laugh out of it. There's a fat body who's really unhappy, and there are smaller Heartless around him who are also really unhappy. And you knock said large body into his buddies, and you deal damage to him. That's another example of interaction. Your world has physics, quote-unquote, that interact with one another. So, there are crates. Maybe there are crates on a second-story building up here. There's a big old crate. Shine brighter for a turn, potentially blinding. Yeah, absolutely. That's a great idea. So, you thunder a lamppost. You thunder that lamppost real good. Shines brighter. For a whole turn, enemy's accuracy is reduced by 1. Just throwing that out there. We haven't built accuracy yet. That doesn't matter, though, because this is visual concept and design. So there's a crate right here. And there is a very unhappy heart dude right here. You knock the crate over, and you deal damage to him. That is interactivity in just its most basic form. And that is something to really consider. So interactivity is going to be 1. And this is going to sound really weird because it's super basic. Interactivity is 1, fall damage. Or gravity damage. Because that is an amazing way for your players to recognize that the world has differences. This is a 1-block drop, right? If you knock an enemy prone and they fall a block, maybe they're dealt like 1 die's worth of damage. It's just that simple, and all of a sudden, this right here is a million times more attractive to players. They want to draw Heartless up there so they can shoulder them over the edge and have them crumple at the bottom of the stairs. That's fun. That's really fun. Or maybe there are Heartless that fly, and they have ways to literally clip them in the wings, and the Heartless fall and hit the ground and crumple at the bottom of the stairs. And players are like, oh man, I like this. But the same thing that can happen to a player. If they're gliding and get hit by a flying Heartless, they can be knocked prone to the ground and take gravity damage. Or, if a Heartless literally pushes an object on top of them, unlikely, but there are also nobodies, that are smarter, they can also take that damage. Interactivity is how does the world around you affect you? How does it affect you? Because if it affects you, it affects enemies. And that's the main thing about it. Let me get rid of all that trash, because that's super goofy. So, we'll go ahead and do graph damage. Interactivity. Graph damage, let's say we will have area damage. Flash obstacles. Spike pits, and flame traps, and fireplaces, and campfires. Man, it'd suck to get knocked backwards into a campfire and you get a little crispy. That's interactivity. Let's think of another way to perform interactivity. How about enemies? Enemies that are an obstacle within themselves. Just their forms are obstacles. What if an enemy, a large body, he takes his reaction to block? Grapple is a very good one. We will get back to that. What if a large body takes his reaction to block, and when he blocks your hit, not only does it only do a little bit, also picking up Heartless and throwing them, great. Not only does it not damage him, this Heartless' special ability. His block makes one attack not damage him, but it pushes you backwards like 5-10 feet. That is an enemy obstacle. Grappling. / forced movement. What if an enemy freezes the ground and you're running forward and all of a sudden you can't stop? You run in a straight line until you hit something or leave the area of effect. It's like the dungeon in Pokemon 2, Gold and Silver. There is an ice dungeon. I remember it because I fought Delibirds for a month because I couldn't figure out how to get out of it when I was like 8 years old. And that's saying something because I don't remember much from when I was 8 years old, but I remember the fucking Delibirds. Fuck those things. The long and short of what I'm saying here is there are a lot of ways to affect the environment that will make combat more interesting. And this is one of them. And so interactivity is turning into something. Some Keyblades hammers are better with baseball swing type launches. We'll get to that here in a bit. That's that's definitely true. You could totally do that. But we're talking about kind of like base mechanics right now that everybody has access to and aren't limited. Like everybody would have the option to push a Heartless over a building's edge, or to set an area on fire, on a lasting fire. Everybody has the ability, or rather multiple enemies will have the ability to be obstacles in themselves, and then grappling and forced movement, great idea. Throwing, also a good idea. Let's see, what else, guys? Let's think for just a second. I would say that throwing, the deal with that is I would say they can only throw like maybe smaller creatures. We would, the way that we would kind of, because I would say that for larger creatures you can only push, which is forced movement. But for smaller creatures, you can pick them up and throw them, you know. And they might go like, I don't know, 15 feet before they skid to a halt. Maybe it depends on your strength. If you've got a 3 in strength, they go 15 feet. If you've got a 5, you can throw them 25 feet. I don't know. But that's just a consideration of like arbitrary shit that hasn't applied yet. This is just kind of what we're working on right now. So, interactivity is how you function with the world around you. And these are our mechanical priorities. Combat. How you hurt the enemy, how the enemy hurts you. Movement. Movement at all times. Even in and out of combat. Like understanding how movement works, how long it takes, how it can be used. Let's go ahead and add glide into movement real quick. Glide. Actually, there's a better way to do this. I'm silly. Let's do it the proper way. There we go. Now it's all traveling in the same way visually. Perfect. With arrow, you could probably get 2 spaces up and then glide. And it's like, hey, you know, this is more interesting now. This is a very, like, robust movement system just with these mechanics. The only issue is this 2.5D shit. That might get difficult for players to follow if the DMs haven't really set up the maps correct, which is why they're not necessarily applicable. You can use Theater of the Mind for them. He can say, hey, here's a map. Actually, let's go to a new one. So let's talk about this map. It's a big, it's Monstro's Belly or something. And there are different places. Here's a door. Here's a door. Here's a door. Here's a door. Here's a treasure chest. It looks like a square Pokeball. You could have 10 foot, 20 foot, 30 foot. And boom, right there. You've got the Theater of the Mind set up. They know, even without saying that, you'd see, okay, you come in through the ground door. There are 3 platforms in this room. One is 10 feet up. You could probably climb it. The other is 20. Going to be more severe. You may need an arrow for that, or you might need a high jumper. The other is 30. You're going to have to get creative. You might interact with your environment and pick up a bunch of crates that are littered around the room and throw them, interactive again, between different things. And then finally, does arrow stack with high jump? No, I don't think arrow and high jump would have anything to do with each other. So the long and short of it is that consider it like this. Just a second. Arrow doesn't take movement. It does not take movement to jump. High jump still takes movement. Arrow costs mana, but does not take any kind of movement from you. So you're hoofing that shit. Instead, high jump, you're still sacrificing your squares to jump up there. But arrow is like a springboard, you know? But not only that, you can like grapple at the end of your arrow and pull yourself up. So like Max was saying, you know, for a 10-foot one, some of your movement may be lost climbing up the wall and pulling yourself up to its surface. Arrow allows you to continue that even further. So you might take these boxes over here, move them, you might take these boxes over here, move them over here, arrow off of this and glide over here. Yeah, absolutely. I think that is perfectly acceptable. We've already clarified that large bodies' bellies are bouncy. Why not use their belly like a trampoline? That's perfectly reasonable to me. And that's an example, again, of interactivity. So, this is kind of the births of our Kingdom Hearts system. We've got our visual concept and design set up. Do you guys have any questions or recommendations for me? We've covered a huge amount of cool stuff so far. Yeah, it's super basic. Anybody can do it. It's just a lot of work. Right now, we've just done the visual concept and design. We've done a little bit of mathematics behind it, but it's mostly a grid-based kind of visual discussion. And we're going to change a million things about this before we solidify it. But the main thing is, we've created it. Time to move on. I'm going to go ahead and save this, actually. 1 second. Right. So, we've got, you know, pretty basic thing down. This is all I really had to cover for tonight. So let's just hang out, chat about stuff, play video game. Or I could, like, draw, maybe. I don't know. Although I'm really not amazing at drawing, like, digitally, I'm way out of practice because for the longest time, my tablet wouldn't work on my computer. Raid stuff coming up soon. Oh, hey, we finished in good time. But anyways, the long and short of it is, yeah, we've kind of solidified how we want our combat to feel, and it's super basic. Gotcha. With that, I'm gonna play some video games, guys. I don't know what I want to play.